Well, if you thought the last video was a little bit pieced together, this one's even more so. I have a few loose ends that I want to catch up with you on, and I want to circle back to what we talked about last week, which was my mom's battle with dementia and then her recent death. And I'm now back from the funeral too. So I have to say I was overwhelmed by how many of you reached out to me with your kindness and comfort and similar stories. There's a lot of this going on in our community here with this channel. And so, I mean, I like to do videos about what I like, but this is also for you. And so I want to spend probably 5 minutes actually sharing a little more about what I learned through the last 3 years of caring for a parent with dementia, and then things that are helping me now that it's over, and also my favorite things that I did at the funeral. So if this is too heavy for you right now, or you're just not interested, skip ahead about 5 minutes and we'll be more into our regular decorating content. But I feel like there was enough of you that reached out and that commented. If you get a moment, read through the comments on the last video. So precious, the things that you are doing and the things that you said, and just what a sweet group this She Holds Dearly group is. I just love you on a whole nother level after that last video. I have had some of you ask me, how do you handle caring for a struggling parent, an elderly parent, when you don't have a good relationship with them? And this is a tough one, but I want to challenge you and encourage you in this. It's time to honor your parents. The Bible talks about honoring your mother and father. And I remember being told that at the end, it's like you become the parent and they become the child. And that's not exactly right. I see why people say that, because there's so much physical care and there's a lot of reasoning with them and a lot of patience. But it's not like you are able to discipline them or train them into this future where they're going to become something so different. That part's not like raising children. And so early on in this journey, I had to get a grasp on what our relationship was going to be like. And I really felt like God was showing me that it's a time to honor them. So no, they can't drive or whatever it is, but you can give them options on, you know what, here's 3 options for breakfast. Still give them some autonomy and remember who they were. I worked in a nursing home. I actually was going to be a nurse at one point. And I was just so touched and so saddened by who these people were. I mean, I was caring for doctors and powerful, intelligent people that have been, their world has just become so small, and yet they still need to be treated well. So hold on to that and let that guide you. It is going to end. This struggle that you're in with aging parents, it is temporary, and at the end you're not going to want to have any regrets as much as possible, right? So I love my parents. I have a really great relationship with them, but even if there had been a terrible relationship and I had never even actually attached to them because it was broken early on, I still, as an adult, would want to be the bigger person in that situation and want to be kind and gracious because that's who I am, not because they deserve it, okay? So maybe that's for somebody out there. The second thing I would tell you is that it is a marathon. It is no joke. It is emotionally intense, it is financially intense, and it is physically intense. And I wasn't her sole caregiver, but we went down often, and every time I had to get in the car, I would just dread it. just cry, and like I just don't want to go down. It's just so sad, and it's not like you have a relationship with them anymore because they can't talk with you. There's no conversation going on. It's so one-sided at the end. And God always gave me the strength. I had to dig deep sometimes and use all the strength in me that I had and get in that car and drive down there again and smile and serve and do what I could. And I do not regret that. I'm so glad that I kept in the game, you know? But you need to be wise. So you curled up on the kitchen floor in the fetal position crying and going, I can't do this anymore. My life's falling apart. I'm burnt out. That's not okay. And at that point, you got to get your oxygen mask on first. And even if there aren't the finances, pray for creativity and for provision, for God to help you get a team together. This is not a one-person job. So get help, pace yourself, know your limits, because you wiping out doesn't help anybody. I had to learn that one early on. And trust God on how long this marathon is. And it ended up being 3 hard years for my family. And in the middle of it, I just like, I cannot believe how long this is going. Hospice just threw up their hands and they were like, I don't know who this woman is. Like, people don't live this long at this state. I don't understand. And looking back, you know what I learned about her? She is incredibly strong. She's the strongest woman that I know. And I hadn't put 2 and 2 together until we went through what we went through. And I saw her hold on and love. She loved her children. Even after she had some strokes at the end, like I went down on Mother's Day, which was 5 months ago, and she couldn't say I love you. She couldn't say anything, but her eyes would just shine when I would come visit her, and I would tell her I loved her and she was a good mama and she was beautiful, and you know, those kinds of things, and a big crocodile tear would come out. And I think that was one of the things keeping her alive, was her love for her children and her husband. And so now that it's over, I have that truth that I come from a strong woman. I have that heritage. You see what I'm saying? Be looking for this heritage that is for you to run with. There were people that were affected because it lasted 3 years. Not in spite of it. It's like God knows who needs how much time to receive the gifts that he's trying to give to them. So be open to that. You are becoming stronger. You are becoming more merciful and more beautiful through this process. And you're going to have that with you the rest of your life. So maybe the parent doesn't understand anything that's going on anymore, but things are happening in you and you're going to be better for it. And then lastly, prepare, not to be morbid, but just let the ceremony that you want to have, let it develop just really gently and beautifully and organically. I just had a list in my phone, memories of my mom. And so I would write down foods that she loved, flowers that she loved, songs that reminded me of her favorite candy, stories, anything that jumped out and kind of like sparked joy for me, I would just add it to this list. So when she finally passed, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And I couldn't have pulled that all together. And I'm really glad I had that. That brings me to the afterwards, how it's going. And I'm still, that level of grief is still really fresh for me. It goes up and down. It's amazing how you can be 45 or 70 or whatever when your parent dies, how you're still a little child in a way, and that orphan feeling hits you. Like, who am I gonna call? Who's gonna be praying for me the way they used to pray for me, you know? So I think that's really normal. And I'm actually gonna read a verse to you. I read this at her burial. And then a couple days ago, I got a card from one of my good friends from grade school, and she wrote the same verse in the card. I'm just gonna read it to you. It's Isaiah 66:12 and 13. It says, "For this is what the Lord says, quote, as a mother comforts her child, so I will comfort you." That verse is so precious to me now because I get to experience that part of God when I need a mother. And that goes, of course, as a father too. He has that for us. So press into that. So now, in this section of the video, I want to talk about the funeral and what I loved. There was one thing that I felt like didn't go that great. So I'll pass this stuff on to you. If you like it, you can use it. So the thing that didn't go so well. So I made these programs and had them printed up. She loved yellow. She loved white. I made name tags that matched. I just printed them in Canva with the circle. It says, hello, my name is. And my thought was just that people change so much and you maybe haven't seen them in 40 years. So we had name tags. And then I didn't have a guest book. I opted for this. So I made these little cards, share a memory. I don't feel like they were utilized as well as they could have been. So here's what I suggest if you go this route. You want people who are not family members, actually virtual strangers would be okay, like someone from the funeral home or something, to stand at the doors where people are coming in. We had two sides that they were coming in from the building, and actually kind of capture each guest that comes in and make sure that you have a record of who came in, and they don't have to wear the name tag or whatever. But I didn't get a good record of who was all there, so I'm like looking at pictures and things, and that just breaks my heart. But yeah, I wouldn't have a family member do this job. Okay, that's the only thing I would do a little different. So I'm working really hard on the funeral and just having a blast in some ways. I mean, I'm crying a lot too, but I mean, I'm finding pictures like that. The things that I loved was we did a beautiful slideshow, and the first song, I'll put the songs that I used, I'll put them in the description below because they were pretty powerful. So we did, the first song was her childhood, and I mean, just look at how darling she was. I just want to kiss her. She's such a darling little girl. So that was the first song, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Then the next song was in the 60s, 70s, 80s when she was married and having her babies and her baby showers and things like that. And then the last song is called To the End, and it shows her as a grandmother. That was a huge hit. I'm so glad I put the time in on that. I recommend a slideshow if at all possible, and I just used iMovie for that. Then if there's grandkids involved, oh, that is just the cherry on top. So at the very end of the funeral, and it lasted an hour, it was really intense and a lot of beautiful things going on. At the very end, two of my daughters stood up and sang the song Broken Vessels by Hillsong and just nailed it, just sang their hearts out, and people were sobbing. And I just loved bringing in the grandkids. I felt like it was this unspoken declaration that her legacy is being carried on, not just with the daughter, I did the eulogy, the grandkids. And so if there's anything you can do with that, it just was so rich for everyone. So I had this idea in my head to do for the funeral. I'm going to set up some tables and call it Memory Lane, and let people walk through some of the more tangible pieces from my mom's life. So her baby cup, her doll, some of the things that she sewed, her favorite perfume, recipes, and I'm going to have her wedding dress there. And I thought that would be kind of fun. I'm really enjoying it. I have her baby book. Oh my gosh. So sweet. That's me. I have a twin brother. And then the other side of the room looks like this. You guys know my room. It's taking over my life. I haven't let my house cleaner in our room for a couple weeks because I'm just working on funeral stuff all the time. But this is for the slideshow, and then the centerpieces, which I will show you. I put up 2 tables, and I had like her baby book and her baby cup, and then you walk along, and then I had her diploma from high school and her diploma from college, and then I had her wedding dress on display, wedding pictures there. Then the second table had her perfume that she wore, and her favorite, she loved Mrs. Myers, so I had a bottle of Mrs. Myers, and how she kind of cared for her home, the charities that she worked in. I had her Bible open there. So just some of her favorite things. Okay, 2 more things. The centerpieces. Grab me one off the mantle there. The centerpieces were one of my favorite things. I'll show you the little tutorial clip that I took when I put these together, but these were slam dunk. People love these. And then I gave them away at the end, especially family members wanted to keep one in their own home. Loved this. We printed pictures on vellum. Okay, and then you take Dollar Tree frames and throw away everything but the glass and put your paper in. These are 4x6s. And then your glass on the back, but don't close the clasps all the way because you're gonna have light shining through them and you don't wanna see those metal pieces. Okay, now you're gonna take 4 of them, flip them over, and then you take electrical tape and tape them all down until you can stand them up like this. And then I'm gonna put a candle in there tomorrow, and each table will have a luminaria like that. My mom was a music teacher. She was a fantastic pianist. I love piano music because of my mom. And so we had hymnal pages as the runners on the table. We had her favorite candy, which is saltwater taffy and licorice and little packages. And that's an easy go-to plan for centerpieces. Okay, and the last part was they live way out in the country in this tiny little town, and there's this local flower farm that has been started just in the last few years. So as I would drive into town to see her, I would stop at the one grocery store and I would buy a bouquet of these flowers and take them to her, and that became a little ritual that I would do. So I contacted the owner and said, I really want to use your flowers for the funeral. And she said, of course, and she was so good to us, and we picked flowers with her for 2 hours. Lindsay from Delamere Valley Farms, you're awesome. I'm out on the flower farm cutting fresh flowers for my mom's funeral. This place is so amazing. I've enjoyed some of these steps to the process of the funeral. I'll show you what we found. One more stop, we are gonna get some sunflowers. I need some pop for these, some good focal points, so I'll show you what we have. And so we wanted all yellow and all white because she's just a real soft, feminine woman. And I did the bouquets, had a little mishap, which I'll share with you, because I didn't know that there's dry floral foam and there's wet floral foam. So we had a couple disasters there. How long does it take her? Should I have done it overnight? I'm not even trying to absorb water.
I don't think scissors are crappy foam. Because it should just be soaking it up, right?
Like a sponge, right?
Mm-hmm.
This isn't absorbing at all.
Yeah, so it's probably not.
It's not real.
Yeah.
It like holds the stems, but it doesn't water the stems.
So there's dry foam and there's wet foam. So maybe you got dry foam.
Oh, shoot. It's not absorbing water at all. And I have 1 hour to get all of these flowers done and to the church. So I think it's a bust. I always learn things when I do events. Pulled it together after a good meltdown on my part and a trip into town, and we got it done. So this is what I want to tell you though. I loved this so much. The last part we did that day was take the flowers, the ones that I created. So I had like an altar bouquet, and I had an urn by the grand piano where there was music going. I took those two, not the ones that were gifted to us, and we drove out to the cemetery, whoever was left that day, and I had piano music playing on a speaker, and then I said to everyone there, this is the time for you to say goodbye in kind of your time and your way. And so it was really personal and kind of a private moment for people, but I let them put bouquets together that they would give to her and make a bouquet and go lay it on it's just a dirt mound at this point. The headstone hasn't arrived. And just say goodbye.